What's going on, everybody? This is Dr. Chris Featherstone here for yet another episode of Unscripted. Listen, it's Tuesday nights. You know what that means. I have some of the biggest, the baddest, the best wrestlers of today and yesteryear, and tonight is no different. This guy was able to really master and make the best out of the opportunities that was handed to him. He really took an androgynous gimmick and really did a very, very good job. You know, it's one of those things that you hear by the legends as far as like Dusty Rhodes and people like that, as far as like telling wrestlers to learn how to maximize their minutes. And this person was definitely able to maximize his minutes with the gimmicks and the opportunities that was given to him. Did a fantastic job doing that. And that's fantastic. And I'm looking forward to talk to him and interview him with wrestling. But more importantly than that, a couple weeks ago, we first talked on the phone. Shout out to my dude Ice Train, who linked us up together. And so we talked on the phone a couple of weeks ago. So we were, getting this on the schedule as far as him being on my show. And he said, "Hey, I heard you. I saw your area code. You from Columbus?" I said, "Yeah, you a Ohio State fan?" And I said, "Absolutely, I'm a Ohio State fan." And we just threw wrestling out the window. So we just start talking about Ohio State, which is the more important topic, ladies and gentlemen. And so we are both avid Buckeye fans. We are both fellow Ohioans, and I'm still here. So without further ado, yes, he is a former WWE and TNA star. But more importantly than that, he is a fellow Ohioan and a fellow Buckeye fan, ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, Allan Funk, formerly known as Kwee Wee. How are you?
Hey, man, listen, brother, I thought this was a Buckeye show. I didn't know we was coming on here to talk wrestling.
Yeah, wrestling. Who? What?
I appreciate the kind words, though, man. I definitely had a couple of minutes in WCW, not too many more than that.
Yeah, but hey, man, you maximized your minutes, man. It's Kwee Wee became a thing, and you were able to have Booker T's wife Charmel as a manager. I remember that back in the day, as she was Paisley, I believe.
Paisley, yep.
And, yeah, man. So it was interesting. How was it like working with her? Now, I believe at that time, her and Booker weren't dating yet. She was
Nah,
she turned
he
from a
was still
nitro girl
married.
to
He was
yeah, he was
married.
still married. Yeah, yeah.
It was great working with Paisley, but she wasn't my first valet. She was actually probably the third or fourth valet, and by far the best of what I had before that.
Yeah.
She was great on the microphone, and and you say I maximized my minutes and did a good job of that character. I appreciate that, because I wasn't really comfortable with the character. I didn't really like it. I didn't like talking like they wanted me to be a little eccentric, and they almost wanted me to be gay, which back then was wasn't a great thing. And it was. I mean, it was more made fun of than it is nowadays. And when they give me that gimmick, they said, if we get any signs with anything gay, with any of that, if you hear any chants, then you're getting taken off TV. And I was like, well, wait a minute, you're setting me up for failure. But luckily, I didn't really have to talk a lot. And when I did, I was kind of the angry Allan part of the gimmick, which I like better anyway. But Paisley, when she had to talk on a mic, man, she was unbelievable. And I was glad to have her and glad to see her in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting how the Nitro Girls, they became, a few of them became, part of the show other than just dancing. I mean, I remember Paisley was one of them. Tigress, I believe she became
Tigress.
Yeah, she became a valet too. She became a manager. So
she
was
great backstage too. The real, I think her name was Vanessa. The real Tigress. She was a great girl.
Yeah, she was very feisty as a dancer, and there's a few other. I mean, of course, Kimberly Page. She became a part of the storylines, of course, with her ex-husband DDP. There was a few of them, and it made sense because I do 3 shows a week with Vince Russo, and Vince is like, hey, look, sure, they're dancing every week, but let's get their money's worth here and have them be.
Them Nitro Girls and them girls back then were actually, believe it or not, they actually got treated a lot better than some of the workers did.
Really?
As far as like all the guys from the power plant, you had like me, Chuck Palumbo, Johnny the Bull, Mike Sanders, Sonny Siaki, and Kid Romeo, Elix Skipper. I mean, a load of guys. And Rick Cornell, which was Reno in the Natural Born Thrillers. The Nitro Girls actually got their rent-a-cars and hotels paid for, which none of us did.
Really? Oh, wow.
So, yeah. And, and I was married back then. So, we always tried to hook up. I always, I guess that's not a good word, to hook up with some of the guys, but we would all travel, together and try to save a buck by, because we never got our rent-a-cars paid for. So we'd all 4, 5, 6 of us, hell, maybe sometimes even more, jump in a rent-a-car when we first started. And then, we'd be 7 deep in a hotel room.
Oh, wow.
Getting the extra bed coming in and stuff. So, it was, and then, we always used to get pissed off to like, these friggin' Nitro Girls, man, and the girls are getting better contracts than we are, and they're getting their hotels and rent-a-cars paid for.
Yeah, y'all the one drawing the money. So,
right.
What was it? Did they share the same hotels with y'all, or was it different hotels that they would go to typically?
Well, typically when we first started, all of us tried to get the cheapest hotel rooms we could. And then some of the guys like Eddie Guerrero used to give me, if he was traveling to the next town, him and Chavo would give me their rooms. And, then I'd say, hey, man, Eddie just gave me his room. You guys come in the room with me because, we're not paying for it. Eddie already got it. And so a lot of the guys like that, Brian Adams would do that once in a while. Brian Clark, which was they were Chronic. They did, they helped us out once in a while because Brian Clark was always down at the power plant. So, a lot of the guys would always look out for you and, kind of have your back and help you out,
Yeah, good stuff, man. Let's get into, before we get into these questions, man, let the listeners know what you're up to nowadays and how they can reach you on social media.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I'm not too involved with the Facebook stuff and Instagram much anymore. I did have a podcast. It was called Get Funk, a year ago and stuff, and I was kind of involved in the social medias and stuff. But I'm off and on. I might be on there, but it's at Funk Allen, just my last name or my name backwards, at Instagram or Facebook and Twitter. I think it's Allan Funk 05. But I don't really get on Twitter much other than mess with Crowbar on there a little bit.
Yeah, Chris.
But other than that, man, it's Buckeye football until December.
Yeah. Yes.
Hey, let's talk about this real quick before we get the questions started.
Yeah.
So Travion Henderson, we talked about before the show started. If there's any football fans out there, they announced he's getting foot surgery today.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been telling everybody. They're asking me because I live in Georgia. SEC capital world always get made fun of. Big Ten sucks. Blah blah blah. So I'm telling
Although
everybody,
Ohio State beat Alabama in 2014 in an SEC team.
Yeah, and then they went on to beat Oregon and win the first ever college football playoff.
Exactly.
But, we can't talk about that because that was in the past. But, this year, finally, I've been down in Atlanta, Georgia for 25 years. Mm-hmm. Finally, they get to play Georgia. But, I got kind of mixed emotions with it because I keep telling everybody if they got Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams healthy, they're going to beat Georgia. Mm-hmm. But now we know they're not having Travion Henderson. So, hopefully they'll have Dallin Hayden or, Chip Trainum step up and see what they can do.
Yeah, I think it was just that they really didn't give Chip Trainum a lot of reps. And the reps that he got, he actually did pretty decent. And you and I both agreed Dallin Hayden did phenomenal against Maryland. I mean,
man.
He didn't get any touches, against Michigan. I'm like, okay, yeah, I know that Ryan Day's probably spooked because he fumbled in the practice, but I'm like, he fumbled against Ohio State defense. That should be a good thing,
right? I never thought about it that way. Yeah,
I mean, that's probably that's a good sign for the defense that they can strip and cause fumbles. And so I don't think he should be penalized for getting. I mean, for getting fumbled by his defense. So it makes sense to me.
But so I can't tell you this much though: if they show up like they did against Michigan, they're not going to beat Georgia.
Ooh, it's going to be a long night.
Yeah,
it's going to be a long night if they
definitely will be.
I think the key for I have had plenty of these conversations over the past couple of weeks. I think the key for Ohio State to beat Georgia, I don't see it happening as a realist, but at the same time, I'm always pulling for Ohio State no matter what. I always say until that clock has 4 zeros in it, anything can happen, right? So, we were the underdog we're almost 10-point underdog against Alabama back in 2014.
Yeah, nobody had us winning that game.
We had so many people saying, Alabama's going to pull it off. They were the best team. They had
third string
Blake Sims. they had Derrick Henry at that time, and they had who was the receiver? He was an amazing receiver at that time too. I forgot who the receiver was for Alabama. But that threesome, that trio was absolutely amazing at that time. So they were the best three people in the whole college. But Amari Cooper, that's who it was. Yep. So yeah. So I mean, they had the best three in college football at that time. Derrick Henry won the Heisman a year before. And so they had the team. People thought that it was no brainer that they were going to beat Ohio State. Ohio State came and beat them. I think that the key for Ohio State this year is because Georgia is a lot like Ohio State, super explosive offensively. They got some gaps defensively. They got some weak spots defensively. They allowed LSU to get over 500 yards. You know what I mean? So I think the key is if CJ starts running the ball, that would throw off the Georgia defense. Because
CJ scares me when he runs the ball, though.
But the thing is, he's scared to run the ball because Ryan Day continues to tell him, don't run the ball because he's most likely he's not confident enough in Kyle McCord, our second string, and so he's like, no, don't run the ball. I don't want you to get injured. You know what I mean? So, but you got to.
Well, I understand that, but dude, you know, when you're used to Justin Fields running, you're used to JT Barrett running.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
I mean, all the quarterbacks in the past run prior. I mean,
Terrell Pryor.
Those jokers ran.
Yep. They all of them ran, man.
I told my buddy in the gym I work out with, he's a Notre Dame fan, and he was talking about like CJ. He's like, "Oh, that kid's so athletic and he runs." I said, "Dude, you obviously hadn't watched Ohio State."
Yeah,
he's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "That dude runs like my grandma, and she's been dead." I said, "He cannot run, or he's scared to run." But
he's scared.
If Ryan Day's telling him not to, that's why. I guess.
Yeah, today's telling him not to. He's scared that he's going to lose him. This is potential last game. If he loses against Georgia, this will be his last game. So he might as well. He don't. CJ doesn't want to be the guy to lose the playoff games. And lose 2 games, both his games against Michigan, lose both of them. Like he at least makes some type of impression. He's definitely one of the best pocket passers in Ohio State history, bar none. Yeah. I mean, he's an amazing.
He's got great receivers too, man.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr., Julian Fleming. We're going. Our receiver core is decent. I mean, Cade Stover is probably going to tight end. He's probably going to come back next year. So
yeah, he dropped a couple passes against Michigan that I thought he should have had. But,
yeah. But he did solid the rest of the time. So
I love Cade Stover though.
Yeah. So I'm sure that we'll be texting each other New Year's Eve.
And, shoot, man, I might break my phone.
Yeah, man, I won't have my phone. I'll try not to have my phone with me because I'll throw it. So
yeah,
cool, man. It's gonna be fun. You ready to get into these questions?
Yes, sir.
All right. Our Band's asking, what was it like imitating Hulk Hogan you were the Funkster, I believe.
Yeah,
did you ever get to meet him?
Well, that came about when I was in WWE. Actually, I was down at the Les Thatcher's HWA, and then we would go to the OVW and wrestle with like John Cena and Randy Orton and all those guys on a Sunday. We do a TV show down there, but I just started doing it, and because I was great at doing it, I thought, and everybody loved it, and I kind of did it as a joke. And then once I started doing it, it was actually fun. I mean, it wasn't going to get me any TV time, but at the time, then I got released from WWE, so I started doing with WWA and overseas in Australia and stuff, and All Japan Pro Wrestling. But I did meet Hulk Hogan, but it was way before this. Is when I first started in WCW. I met him at a house show in Columbus, Georgia. One of my first house show loops, I was wrestling Kid Romeo, and he was in the hallway with Nick at the time, and Nick was real young. This was 24 years ago, probably. And he was actually cool, man. And when I was a kid growing up, man, he was, he was the end all be all, man. He's the reason I wanted to get into wrestling. When I was a senior in high school, I actually caught his Hulk Rule shirt in Richfield Coliseum. Nice. I don't know if you're from Columbus. I don't know if you ever been up to the Richfield Coliseum.
That's around Dayton, not too far from Dayton, right?
No. Richfield's up around Cleveland. It's a suburb of Cleveland.
Oh, Richfield. Okay. Yeah.
And
something else that was in
they had, that's where they had all the stuff back then. It was called Richfield
the first Survivor Series was on Richfield, right?
Yeah, the first couple were. Yeah. So the second one, that's when I caught his T-shirt. So flash forward to when I started working at WCW. I didn't want to ask him to sign the shirt because I felt like a mark, and I was new to the business. So I'm like, he's going to be like, look at this kid, man. He's coming up and wanting me to sign his shirt. Like, what, I wanted to feel like I belonged in the locker room, so I didn't want guys to treat me like I was a mark, right?
Yeah.
So I had Molly Holly, which is Nora Greenwald. She's good friends with Hogan. So I said, hey, man, you mind asking Hulk if he'll sign this shirt? So he signed it to Alan it's right over here. It says, Alan, stay strong and kayfabe, Hulk Hogan. Nice. So I got it in a big frame, on the wall. And so he was always a good dude whenever I get run across him. So I don't have nothing bad to say about him, which is awesome.
Nice. Good stuff, man. Aaron's asking, what was your experience like working with Eric Bischoff?
Yeah, dude, I loved Eric Bischoff, man. He once I got my opportunity and stuff, it was real weird one time. I think we were in North Carolina doing a show, doing Nitro, and Janie Engel came in the locker room asking for me. And I'm like, holy crap, like, this is either good or bad. I'm getting fired today or so, like, that didn't happen with guys like me and guys from the power plant. Like Jane Ingles coming out, this wants me to go with her to Mr. Bischoff's office, she said. And I said, as I'm walking with her, I'm thinking, man, I don't know what's going on. Like I wasn't too thrilled about what was about to happen. But when I got in his office, I had a seat and we talked, and he was great, man. He told me that he was going to give me a big push. And he told me that I was going to be one of his new top guys, man. He loved my work and stuff. And I was pretty excited about it. So Eric's always treated me nice. I think the last time I saw Eric, it's been years ago. I saw him in Vegas, and he actually, talked to me and was like, "Hey man, how you been?" And da. And he was always been good to me. I don't have nothing bad to say about Eric Bischoff. Whatever he did in the wrestling business, people don't like. It doesn't matter to me, man. He was always cool with me.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Just as a journalist, I've interviewed Eric. I've interviewed Eric. He's among the top of my list of people I've interviewed the most. I've interviewed him
really?
a lot.
You got a new book out too. I heard it's pretty good.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, I'll be interested in getting it. Yeah, same here, man. I've had nothing but positive experiences with Eric Bischoff. I mean, even from a text, standpoint, he texts me right back, and I've interviewed him for. He's been on my show. He's been on here. He's been on my other shows. I've interviewed him for Digital Spy, just a bunch of different times, and nothing but positive. Experience with him. Very nice guy, responses, and yeah, I mean, just positive stuff. And I know that he's among same with Vince Russo. I mean, me and Vince Russo are actually good friends now. So it's like,
yeah, Vince was always good with me too, man.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that, I know that those two people are among very controversial figures, but it's all a work anyways, right? You know what I mean?
So I mean, but they had their time in the business. They weren't just the flash in the pan, man. They were around for a long time, and there's a reason for that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Got to take the good with the bad,
They have the minds, absolutely.
So I'll have to hook you up with a guy. He does a podcast. I don't know if you've heard the name, but I know you know who this guy is. Neil Pruitt. He's the voice of the NWO.
Okay. Yeah. I actually texted Eric probably a year ago and asked him because I wanted to interview him.
Neil Pruitt?
Yeah, the
Dude,
voice
I
of
got
the
you, bro.
NWO.
You're a Buckeye, man. I'll take care of you.
Okay, my guy. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Because I actually wanted to interview Neil because I wanted to just get the backstage.
Dude, Neil's a great dude, man. He's got so many damn stories. He's actually got a podcast now. It's I told him I'd give him a plug, and I can't even remember the name of the show. It's like backstage WCW show or something. Neil Pruitt, and the guy that actually helped Eric Bischoff write his new book is his co-host.
Okay, nice.
Or not? Yeah, Eric Bischoff.
Yeah, so he's the guy who's the biggest icon of professional wrestling, right? He was the one that would say all the stuff from the new
dude.
New
Yeah, every time we go somewhere, we went to Ric Flair's last match, and Neil drove up there with me from Atlanta, and I've maintained contact with Neil over the years, and he's a great dude. So every time you introduce him to somebody, they don't really know who he is because he was always backstage. So he'll do the voice, and they go, "Holy shit!" or "You're that guy."
Nice.
So then all of a sudden, and Neil, man, he's got the gift of gab, and he's a really smart guy.
Yeah,
and he'd be a good guy to interview, man. He's a real good dude.
Yeah, let's get that together. Neil Pruitt's Secrets of WCW Nitro.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Plug for Neil. Sorry, buddy, I couldn't remember
it. New World Order. Yeah, I'd definitely like to chat with him. Let's see. Our Nearbon's asking, what was it like imitating Lady Gaga and experience working with Vince Russo? Yeah, you talked about Vince already.
Yeah, I think the Lady Gaga is referring to is the Lucha Libre USA I wrestled as Chi-Chi.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Raka Khan was my partner.
Tanisha.
Yeah, Tanisha, dude. She was awesome, man. I miss that girl. I really do. Mm-hmm. I don't know what happened to her over the years, but I lost contact with her. And,
yeah, she's still around. I've chatted with her a bunch of times.
Oh, I love Tanisha. I used to be in love with Tanisha.
Really?
she didn't know that, but I had these.
You were crushing on Tanisha, huh?
Oh, dude, let me tell you something. One night we wrestled in Amarillo, Texas, and we were wrestling with one of the Exoticos is real famous in Mexico. What was his name? one of the real famous exoticos. So me and her
as you're talking, I'll send you your number if you don't mind. Send her.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. I'd love to get in touch with her, man. So, but yeah, well, I know she had a daughter and stuff last time I seen, and but I've lost contact with her over the years. But so we're wrestling this match in Texas. We're in Amarillo, Texas, and so she's in the ring. Well, I'm yelling at her. I'm like, Tranisha, you tag me. She's like, what? Her crotch split out of her pants. Like I saw everything, and I'm like, I said, you got to cover yourself. Like you know, everything's hanging out.
Yeah.
And she finally realized it and tagged me. She's like, oh my God. And I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, she's an interesting person, man. I've talked to Tree quite a bit of times, and
I love her to death, man. She's a great girl.
Very interesting. Very cool, eccentric, character she is. So
actually, you know what? I don't even think I answered the question now.
Yeah, you're good. Lady Gaga. Yeah.
And he asked about Bischoff, or
he asked about Russo.
Russo. You know, it's funny. Russo is the first one. He's the one to give me the Kwee Wee character.
Yeah.
So
that seems like a Russo creation.
Yeah, me and Mike Sanders were actually walking in the airport in West Virginia, and him and Terry Taylor was sitting at the gate, and we walked by him, and I had my hair spiked up, which became kind of ridiculous towards the end of the Kwee Wee character because I keep letting it grow, and it kept getting longer and longer. And he looks at me and says, "You actually wear your hair like that?" Him and Terry Taylor were kind of like, "You actually wear your hair like that?" And I'm like, yeah. And then Vince said, "Hey man, I might have something for you. Come talk to me at Nitro." And then he gave me an idea about how he wanted the character to be. He kind of wanted to be like a Mango character that was on Saturday Night Live with Chris Kattan. And then we kind of went from there. And then, then they had some goofy valets for me. And then they finally gave me Paisley. And then, then it was actually a pretty good character once I had Paisley, and they kind of let us wrestle a little bit,
Yeah. Where did Kwee Wee come from? I mean, I know it sounds like Kiwi, but where did
the name was originally Kiwi.
Okay.
From what I understand, what I was told by higher ups in the office of WCW, the character was based on a character, like I said, the Mango from Saturday Night Live, which was Chris Kattan. Well, he had a cousin on there. I think it was David Spade. His name was Kiwi.
Okay.
So I guess that's where they got the name Kiwi. So I guess Saturday Night Live threatened to sue WCW for using the name. And so they changed it from, Kiwi to Kwee Wee, which, let's be honest, man, it's not the greatest name in the world. But,
Kwee. I mean, it's stuck though. I mean, it's stuck.
And nobody ever says it right. Even like my best friend, like I'm friends with Mike. All the guys from the power plant I'm still friends with, they still say Kiwi or,
Oh, really?
I think the only one that ever got it right was I'm brain dead, man. I'm sorry. Was Stacy Keebler.
Oh, okay.
She used to yell all the time, Kwee Wee, and I'd yell Stacy, and we always give each other hugs, and I think she was about the only person ever got the name right.
Now, Stacy, you're talking about someone crushing. I was crushing on Stacy Keebler back in the day. That's for sure.
Yeah. See, now if we could go back and I wasn't married, I would have slapped David Flair and just took her away from him.
That's indeed. I wouldn't have blamed you. That's for sure.
Because me and David are good buddies too. I talk to David all the time. So
nice.
That's why I can say that.
Yes, indeed. All right, let's do a 2-minute lightning round. Let's see. Opinion on Roman Reigns and if anyone can beat him. You still watch the product at all?
I'll be honest with you, man. Not too much. I do off and on. I watch some of the pay-per-views. I'll be honest with you. I like watching the women's matches, not because I'm a pervert, but to me, the women's matches to me are way better than the guys anymore. They just keep me interested more.
Yeah.
So, but Roman Reigns, that's what I never met Roman Reigns that I remember. He's a great guy. He went through a lot of stuff personally, and with his health. So it's good to see him get back to health. He seems like a good dude. I've never really heard anything bad about him backstage. I just think they kind of got him on a pedestal in the wrestling business, man, and they don't want to get him off of that pedestal. I don't know if it's good or bad. I mean, it's good for him. I mean, he's having a hell of a run. realistically though, they do have them unbeatable, man. It's like,
Yeah.
from what I've seen, it's almost like Goldberg-ish at
Mhm.
one of the points in Goldberg's career, where they like, is he
It's
going to keep the belt
unstoppable.
forever?
Yeah. I think the biggest problem, and I analyze wrestling on a weekly basis. I think I'm all for Roman Reigns' run because it does. I mean, he's the best thing going in all of WWE right now because he feels bigger than the business.
Yeah, I got you on
Um,
that.
but the only problem with that is that no one else feels bigger than the business. So it's like, can't nobody beat him because no one feels as good. No one is being presented as good as Roman Reigns is to beat him because he feels bigger than everybody else. So
Well, that makes sense, but if they don't like it, they'll just go to AEW.
yeah, yeah. Elvis is asking, do you have any backstage stories on Chris Benoit?
All good, all good. Chris
Mhm,
Benoit was always cool, man. I shot a few commercials with him in WCW, and we were at the power plant.
mhm,
Uh, Chris was always cool, man. I was a big fan of his work. He was an awesome wrestler, all his Japan stuff. Chris used to sit down with my father before my dad passed away. He'd come to a lot of the shows, and him and Chris would sit there and drink coffee and talk for hours, dude.
mhm,
Like, people were like, Chris don't normally sit there and talk to people like that.
mhm.
But for some reason he connected with my dad, and he always treated me with respect, and I don't have nothing bad to say about Chris. It's unfortunate what happened, but
Yeah,
nobody will ever know what happened but the big dude upstairs. You know what I mean?
yes, indeed. All right, last question from the peanut gallery here. What's your favorite match that you had in WCW?
Dude, there was a lot of 'em. Personally, my favorite, just because every match, like, I wrestled with a lot of guys from a power plant, which I came up with. So every one of those matches meant something to me. The probably the best match I had that people remember is the last pay per view I wrestled in Greed with Jason Jett. Uh,
Mhm.
and we had a 15-minute barn burner, man. We tore the house down. It was a curtain jerker, first match. And after we got backstage, man, everybody was like, "Holy crap, we don't know. Nobody wants to follow that match." So,
Mhm.
hearing that from the guys, it kind of stuck out in my mind as being one of the better matches I had. Not,
Yeah.
I don't think I really had a bad match at WCW. I don't know if that's arrogant of me to say, but I always worked with good guys and we gelled good. Uh, I can tell you my worst match, and I don't, and he's a great guy, and I like him, and I get along with him. It was Norman Smiley. We just never gelled in the
Dick
ring.
Wiggle.
He had that European style kind of
Yeah.
herky jerky, and I just couldn't never. Me and him had like 3 or 4 matches, and they all seemed weird,
Just
just
couldn't gel with him. Yeah.
yeah. But other than that, I don't
Yeah.
really have a favorite. All of them were a favorite, man. Small town from the Buckeye State, baby.
Yeah.
Alliance, Ohio. Shout out to A Town.
Nice.
I don't even know if people know where that is. Northeast part of Ohio, but
Yep.
yeah, but big wrestling fan growing up. Just to get in WCW and make it on TV was my favorite match. Making it to the television, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Real quick question before we leave. So your last name is Funk. How come they never really like went with the gimmick of you being like a child of Dory or
Yeah,
Terry?
I don't know, man, and I'm surprised with Vince Russo and Bischoff that they never wanted
Yeah,
to do that, because
yeah,
that would have been amazing, bro.
yeah. I think they
'Cause
should have done that. Like
But
they should have
I'll
just.
tell you a quick story. We were in Indiana, and Terry had a bunch of his family come to the shows.
Mhm,
Well, prior to that, my dad was coming to a few of the shows, so Terry met my dad. But the
mhm,
first time I met Terry, he made me show me his ID or my ID because he didn't believe my last name was Funk.
mhm.
So when I showed him my ID, he was like, "Give me a hug," and we were, we're family now. So, but I'll tell
Terry
you
said
this,
that.
yeah. So
Oh, give me, to Terry, give me a hug.
yeah, after he was sitting there with the member of the Wall from WCW and a couple other
Yeah,
guys there playing cards. So then, when I showed him my ID, he's like, "Oh, you are a Funk," hug me.
nice.
And so then, he was always cool. And
Yeah.
but that would have been awesome, bro. I would have freaking popped huge for that.
Yeah, that would been great, man. I mean, like it seems like you were a little like ahead of your time because it seems like that would have been something that like Paul Heyman would have like
Yeah.
capitalized on, and it really would have done well in ECW. Like it seems
Dude, I
like
would
it
have
would have
loved it,
ECW.
bro.
Yeah,
I mean, shoot, I'd have went there and done that in a second.
yeah, yeah.
I'd
It
love
seemed
to
like
come out with a double cross
man.
Brand people and beating people over the head with it.
Yeah, man, absolutely, man. Wear the stripe tights like Terry used to do.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, I don't know if I'd have wore those, but
might as well. You might as well.
Those are the old school bodybuilding tights, dude. The hot skins, bro.
Yeah, there you go. You might as well just milk it all up, man.
But I did work a deal with Terry one night. He come out dressed as Santa Claus and beat me and Crowbar up. And I think Johnny the Bull might have been in there. He hit me with a chair so hard over the elbow that my elbow, bro, I couldn't move it for a damn month after he hit me.
He would shoot give those chair shots, that's for sure.
Oh, man. Dude. But the bad thing was I was getting up, so my elbow was up in the air. Yeah. And when he come down with that chair, he hit my elbow, and I thought he broke my arm.
Oof. Yikes. Yeah. That's Terry for you. He doesn't care. He called himself middle-aged and crazy. So
but he's a good dude, though, man.
Yeah. Cool, man. Allan, it's been a pleasure, man. This went by so fast, man. Time
it always does, man.
Yes, indeed. Once again, let the listeners know what you're up to nowadays, and if they want to follow you and whatever you got going on in these shows or any appearances or signings or anything, let them know where to find you.
Yeah, man. Just follow me on Instagram, Facebook at Funk Allan, or Allan Funk 5 on Twitter. Sometimes I won't post stuff for a while, and then all of a sudden I'll post 10 different things. But I always post the Buckeye stuff,
Yes, indeed.
So I started following the Sportskeeda on Facebook, and I subscribed on YouTube. So I appreciate you having me on, bro.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for
real quick, can I give a shout out to Larry Ledford, the legend Larry Ledford, man. Check him out on he's a buddy of mine. He was a world-class powerlifter, got cancer. And I was trying to give him a plug, man, help him out because he sells T-shirts and hats, and he's got a great line of products. So check him out, legend Larry Ledford, on Instagram or Facebook, bro. Try to help him out, dude. He's a good dude. Had cancer, and he's trying to beat cancer.
Yeah. Yes, indeed, man. Hang tight. After when we get off here, I want to chat with you about a couple things real quick before I move over to my next show. So
go Bucks.
Yes, indeed. OH.
IO, December 31st. You better be ready, Georgia.
Yes, indeed. Cut a promo against Georgia real quick, man.
Shoot. You want the Funkster promo?
Yeah. Cut a promo against Georgia.
All right, brother. 31st, dudes. Everybody's going to be eyes focused, brother, on the Peach Bowl land of Georgia, brother. Ohio State's going to run all over you, brother. What you going to do, Georgia, when Ohio State runs wild on you?
Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Allan, thanks so much for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, brother.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
You too.